Okay, so you want to run Hogwarts, not attend. Anyone can attend. An owl shows up, you get a letter, your aunt and uncle have a nervous breakdown. Done. No, you want to run it. You want to be the one holding the keys to a 1,000-year-old castle in the Scottish Highlands, 7 floors, 142 staircases, several hundred children, and a budget that, as far as anyone can tell, does not exist. Because here's the thing nobody in that world ever talks about. Not once, in 7 books, does anyone mention what any of this costs. The candles float, the feasts appear, the staircases move, which, by the way, is a sentence that would give a building inspector a heart attack. And somewhere, someone is paying for all of it. Today, that someone is you. We're going to run the numbers. The real numbers from real castles, real boarding schools, and real insurance underwriters on the most beloved school in fiction. And I'm warning you now, by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why your Hogwarts letter never came with a bill. If you enjoy watching someone take a children's fantasy and drag it through a spreadsheet, subscribe. That's essentially the whole channel. And drop a comment with the one fictional place you'd bankrupt yourself to own. We're pricing all of them eventually. Quick housekeeping note, yes, the wizarding world uses galleons. The exchange rate is 17 sickles to a galleon, 29 knuts to a sickle, and none of it converts to anything sane, which is very on brand for British currency. So we're doing this in dollars. The goblins will cope. Right, let's start with what you're actually buying. Here's the first mistake everyone makes. They think Hogwarts is a school. It is not a school. Hogwarts is a listed heritage castle, a fully residential boarding operation, a working farm, a wildlife reserve, private hospital, and a maximum security facility, all wearing a school as a costume. Every one of those things is, in the real world, its own financial catastrophe. You've decided to run all 6 at once, in a building with no electricity, at the top of a mountain, in Scotland. So, the castle. You cannot buy Hogwarts, and not just because it's fictional. Nothing at this scale ever comes to market. Real Scottish castles do sell. You can pick up a modest one, and I mean modest, for $2 to $5 million, the kind with 1 tower and a leak. But Hogwarts is not a modest castle. 7 floors, 142 staircases, that's canon. The books count them. Towers, dungeons, a great hall that seats the entire student body, an owlery, greenhouses, a Quidditch stadium, and grounds that include a lake and an entire forest. Based on the films and the books, you're looking at somewhere north of 400,000 square feet of medieval stone construction. Want to build that today? Traditional load-bearing stone masonry runs $400 to $600 a square foot before anyone waves a wand. 100,000 square feet at that rate is $160 to $240 million. For the shell, no enchanted ceiling, no plumbing, which, given that the books confirm Hogwarts once didn't have plumbing, may be period accurate. Call it $250 million to stand the thing up. Read that again, $250 million. And that's the cheap part, because you only pay it once. Everything else in this video, you pay forever. Let's talk about keeping a heritage castle alive, because this is where real castle owners start drinking. The rule of thumb in heritage property management is that annual maintenance runs 1 to 2% of the building's value. On a $250 million structure, that is $2.5 to $5 million a year, every year, forever, just so the roof doesn't fall in. For reference, the British royal household spends tens of millions a year maintaining its residences, and their staircases have the decency to stay where they were built, and ours don't. I want to dwell on this, because, as a fan, I accepted moving staircases for 20 years, without once asking the important question, who maintains them? Every moving part in a building is a maintenance contract. 142 staircases, an unknown number of which, like to change, again, canon, is 142 elevator contracts wearing stone costumes. Budget another $500,000 a year and light a candle for the contractor. Speaking of candles, the Great Hall is lit by thousands of floating ones, and torches do the rest of the castle, because there is no electricity. A good beeswax candle is $2 to $5 and burns for a night. Run the Great Hall alone, every night, and you're spending $300,000 to $500,000 a year on candles. There is a person in your finance office whose entire job is candle procurement. Their title is Keeper of the Flame Budget, and they have not slept since September. Heating. It's a stone castle in the Scottish Highlands, with single-pane leaded windows and open fireplaces, where the students routinely wear scarves indoors, which we all thought was house pride. But no, that's insulation failure. Large heritage homes in Britain spend $100,000 to $200,000 a year on heating, and they're a tenth this size. For Hogwarts, with fires burning in every common room, every office, and a kitchen feeding 1,000 people 3 times a day, $500,000 to $1 million a year in fuel equivalents. The Flue network, ironically, is the one fireplace expense that's actually productive. It's the only heating bill in history that doubles as public transit. Now staff. And this is where my accountant heart truly breaks, because Hogwarts is famously, catastrophically understaffed, and I never noticed until I counted. There are roughly 14 teachers. 14. For every subject, for every year group, for the entire student body. An elite British boarding school like Eton runs about 1 teacher for every 8 students. Hogwarts is running 1 teacher per, well, we'll get to the student number, it's its own scandal, but it's bad. And these aren't ordinary teachers. These are the only qualified specialists in their fields in the country. Your potions master is a world-class chemist. Your transfiguration professor can turn into a cat, which in the Muggle labor market makes her literally priceless and also unhireable for tax reasons. Elite boarding school faculty earn $60,000 to $120,000 a year, but you're not paying market rate. You're paying market rate plus danger pay. Because, and I say this with love, this school has a fatality problem. 14 specialists at hazard-adjusted salaries, $1.5 to $2 million a year, except one position, which deserves its own line item: Defense Against the Dark Arts. This job has 100% annual turnover. It is cursed, literally cursed. The books confirm it. Nobody has lasted more than a year in decades. In HR terms, that is a role where the recruitment costs recur annually. The candidate pool knows the job might kill them, and the interview process once failed to notice that the applicant had a Dark Lord living on the back of his head, under a turban, which he wore indoors. At dinner, every recruiter watching this just felt a cold chill and doesn't know why. Budget an extra $200,000 a year in perpetual recruitment and a standing obituary template. And then there's the support staff, or rather, there isn't. The facility standard for schools is 1 custodian per 25 to 30,000 square feet. 400,000 square feet of castle needs a custodial team of 14 to 16 people. Hogwarts has one. His name is Argus Filch. He has no magic, he cleans a wizard castle by hand, and he is the single most exploited worker in British fiction, with one exception we'll get to shortly. 1 groundskeeper, 1 for 250 acres including a forest that eats people. 1 librarian, 1 nurse. We'll get to the nurse. She might be the most valuable employee in the building. Food, the feasts. Oh, the feasts. 3 meals a day, plus a start-of-term feast, Halloween, Christmas. The books describe tables physically groaning under the weight. Boarding school catering costs $4,000 to $6,000 per student per year in the real world, which for this student body is $4 to $6 million a year. Where does it all come from? The kitchens, directly below the Great Hall, staffed by over 100 house elves, the largest number in any dwelling in Britain. That's canon too. Oh, and while we're on logistics, how does everyone get there? Because tucked into this budget is a detail I absolutely adore. Hogwarts owns a train, a private Scarlet mainline steam locomotive that runs the entire length of Britain. In the real world, heritage railways are registered charities for a reason. Keeping one steam locomotive certified for mainline running is financial masochism. The boiler alone gets a mandatory overhaul every 10 years at $750,000 a pop. A single chartered mainline steam run costs $30,000 to $40,000 in crew, coal, and track access fees. And this train runs the length of the country multiple times a year, plus the Christmas services. Call it $1 million to $1.5 million a year for a train whose passengers are children who could, and this is canon, travel by fireplace. And the train is just the flagship. The school also maintains a fleet of self-sailing boats for the first years. Very dramatic, also a marine liability on a lake with a resident giant squid, and about 100 carriages that everyone believed for years were horseless. They are not horseless. They are pulled by thestrals, skeletal winged horses, visible only to people who have witnessed death, which remains the single darkest fun fact in children's literature. And notice the pattern. The thestrals are also unpaid. The entire transport division runs on coal, magic, and invisible horses working for raw meat, which, to be fair, is still cheaper than a bus contract. And here we arrive at the dirty secret of the entire Hogwarts financial model. Are you ready? Here's the counterintuitive engine of this whole operation. Hogwarts only functions because its labor costs are zero. The cooking, the cleaning of the dormitories, the laundry, the fires being lit before you wake up, all of it is done by more than 100 house elves who are paid nothing. Nothing. One of them once received a single sock, and it made international wizarding news. If you price that labor at real-world live-in staff rates, $30,000 to $40,000 a year each, you're looking at $3 to $4 million of annual labor that this institution receives for free. The entire business model is propped up by an unpaid workforce, and the moment one idealistic third year starts a workers' rights campaign, and, canonically, one did. Her name was Hermione, and she was right. Your budget explodes on contact. SPEW wasn't an annoying subplot. SPEW was the single greatest threat to this institution's solvency in 1,000 years. I will die on this hill. So let's talk about revenue. This'll be quick. There isn't any. I'm serious. This is confirmed by the author herself. There is no tuition at Hogwarts. The Ministry of Magic covers the cost of all magical education. Not one family gets a bill. The Weasleys, 7 kids through the school, famously broke, pay nothing. This means Hogwarts is not a business at all. It is a public school in the British sense of actually being public, a 9-figure heritage facility with a trauma ward and a dragon incident history, funded entirely by the wizard taxpayer. You are not running a company. You are running a government department. Congratulations, the pay is worse, and the oversight committee includes at least one person who is secretly evil. Now, before we tally, the grounds. 250 acres, 1 groundskeeper, and a creature management program I can only describe as a liability engine with a petting zoo aesthetic. Your care of magical creatures department keeps as teaching livestock, hippogriffs, proud quarter-ton eagle horses that attack when insulted, being introduced to teenagers, demographic famous for insulting things, blast-ended scroots, which the school bred on site, creature with no known purpose that both burns and stings and grows to 6 feet long. That is not livestock. That is a product recall, and a paddock of thestrals with the feeding profile of a zoo's carnivore wing. Real mid-sized zoos spend $200,000 to $400,000 a year just on animal feed. So shall we. And the man running all of it, one man, on a groundskeeper's salary, once hatched an illegal dragon inside his one-room wooden hut, on school property. It set fire to his beard within the week and had to be smuggled to Romania by 12-year-olds. In risk management terms, that is an employee operating an unlicensed exotic animal breeding program out of company housing, and when it was discovered, the consequence was nothing. He kept the job. He was later promoted to faculty. I love this man with my entire heart, and he must never ever be shown the budget. Which brings us to the number every school budget lives and dies on. How many students are there, actually? And here's the beautiful part. Nobody knows. The author has said around 1,000. The fans, and God bless the fans, went through the books, counted the named students in Harry's year, found about 40, multiplied by 7 years, and got roughly 280. The gap between the official number and the counted number is 720 children. This is the only school on Earth whose enrollment is a mystery to its own management. From a funding standpoint, this is not a charming detail. This is an audit finding. Let's be generous and use the bigger number, because the feasts certainly cater for it. 1,000 students, 0 revenue, and let's tally the running costs so far. Maintenance, $1 million. Moving staircases, $500,000. Candles and heat, $1.5 million. Faculty and the cursed job, $2 million. Food, $1 million. The train and the transport fleet, $1.5 million. The menagerie's meat bill, $250,000. The unpaid elf labor we're pretending not to see, and one janitor's salary that we're rounding to a rounding error. We haven't even gotten to the dangerous stuff, and you're already burning north of $13 million a year. Now the hidden costs, the ones no bursar could survive. Medical. The hospital wing is not a nurse's office. It is a fully operational private trauma center, run by one woman, Madame Pomfrey, who can regrow the bones in your arm overnight. In the American healthcare system, a broken arm costs $2,000 to $15,000, and they do not regrow anything. During Quidditch season, she basically runs a field hospital. Petrification outbreak, she handles it. Boy falls 50 feet off a broom, handled by morning. Priced against real private emergency care, this one employee delivers $1 to $2 million of medical value a year, and I guarantee you she is paid like a school nurse. Give this woman whatever she asks for. She is the load-bearing wall of the entire institution. Security. In year 3, the school was guarded by Dementors, which is what happens when your government outsources campus security to the concept of depression. Real close protection contracts for a high-risk site run $500,000 to $2 million a year, and unlike real schools, this campus genuinely needs it, because the perimeter defenses have to handle everything from escaped convicts to, eventually, an actual war, which is foreshadowing. For the budget section, legal. Nobody talks about legal. In year 3, a hippogriff injured a student. The student provoked it. Everyone knows Malfoy provoked it, but that doesn't matter, because what followed was a full ministry disciplinary hearing, an appeal, and an execution order. That's a semester-long legal proceeding over a single animal incident. A school that keeps a tree on campus that attacks children, they planted it on purpose, it has a documented history, a student's flying car was totaled by it, and it stayed, is a school with a legal budget, $150,000 to $500,000 a year in retained counsel, and your lawyers earn every canute. Now, the line item that ends the dream, insurance. Imagine you're an underwriter, a nice, gray-suited actuarial professional, and this file lands on your desk. A residential school for minors, in a remote location. The staircases move. There is a documented incident of a 12-foot mountain troll in a bathroom. There is a colony of car-sized spiders in the adjacent forest. Introduced, I remind you, by a staff member. There is a lake with a giant squid, listed in the file, and I quote the fandom consensus, as friendly. The astronomy tower, the tallest point of the castle, where children attend class at midnight, has open crenellations and no railings of any kind. The school sport is played 80 feet in the air and features 2 iron balls whose entire designed purpose is to knock children off their brooms. And in the applicant's own first year of management, a 3-headed dog was housed in a corridor, behind a door, and the door was locked, with a lock that could be opened by a spell taught to 11-year-olds. In fact, it was opened by an 11-year-old. 3 of them. There is no premium for this. The number doesn't exist. 0 underwriters on Earth sign this policy. Hogwarts is not expensively insured. It is uninsurable, which means every incident comes straight off your books. Which brings us to the cautionary tale. Every school has a bad year. Hogwarts has had 7 consecutive ones, escalating. Year 1, troll. Destroyed bathroom. Cursed teacher. Sal fire damage. Fine. Call it $100,000. Wizards repair cheap. Year 2, a basilisk moving through the plumbing. Multiple petrified students. A crashed flying car. And structural damage to the Whomping Willow, which, incredibly, the school billed as damage to the tree. Year 5, a departing prank duo detonated fireworks through the building and installed a permanent swamp in a 5th-floor corridor, and the staff kept a corner of the swamp because it was, quote, a really good bit of magic. That is the most Hogwarts sentence ever spoken. The damage was so impressive, we're preserving it. And then Year 7, the Battle of Hogwarts. Towers down, walls breached, the Great Hall half destroyed. For a real-world analog, when Windsor Castle caught fire in 1992, the restoration took 5 years and cost £37 million. Call it 80 to 90 million in today's dollars. And that was one wing of one castle, damaged by one fire, with 0 giants involved. The post-battle Hogwarts rebuild is a $100 million plus capital event, minimum. The Wizarding World rebuilt it in about a year, which tells you either that magic slashes construction costs, or that the ministry buried the invoice so deep even the goblins couldn't find it. Given everything we know about the ministry, it's the second one. So, the real math, countercheck, the optimistic scenario. A quiet year, nobody opens any chambers. The defense teacher survives, nothing attacks the castle that the castle didn't already own. About $14 to $16 million a year in operating costs. The realistic scenario, you price the elf labor like a functioning conscience, you staff custodial and security like a real facility, you amortize a catastrophic damage event across the decade, you pay the lawyers and the eternal recruitment fees, $28 to $32 million a year. On top of $250 million in capital. Over a decade, with one battle-scale rebuild, you will spend north of $500 million running this school. $500 million. For an institution that invoices no one. Per student, using the generous $1,000, that's $25,000 to $30,000 a year. Using the fan-counted 280, it's over $100,000 per student per year, which would make Hogwarts, per head, the most expensive school in the world. Eton charges families about $65,000 a year and has never once lost a headmaster to a dark wizard, which frankly, at those prices, feels like a lack of ambition. And every penny of it lands on the ministry. The same ministry that spent an entire book denying a terrorist was back, and whose idea of an education reform was sending Dolores Umbridge. That woman inspected a school hemorrhaging $30 million a year in taxpayer funding, and her finding was that the defense curriculum was too practical. Somewhere in the ministry, there is a wizard accountant who has been screaming into a filing cabinet since 1991. So here's your closing statement, and it's the punchline the whole ledger has been building to. Hogwarts, financially, cannot exist. Zero revenue, unpayable insurance, an unpaid workforce one sock away from unionizing, a physical plant that suffers a war every decade. Any consultant would shut it down by Christmas of first year. And yet, here's the thing every accountant misses, and every 11-year-old understands instantly. If that letter came for you, if the owl actually tapped on your window tomorrow, you would not ask a single question about the operating budget. Nobody would. Every fan watching this, myself very much included, would sign whatever the goblins put in front of us. Because the price of a thing and the value of a thing are not the same number, and no ledger ever written has found the column for magic. That's why your letter never came with a bill. Some things you don't invoice. Thanks for watching. If you want more fictional places dragged through a spreadsheet, the dinosaur park is next, and the insurance section alone may kill me. Subscribe, and drop your request in the comments. We read every one, usually while pricing something ridiculous. See you in the next one.